Imagine being transported to a different world where you gain the power to form contracts with any creature. What would you do with this power? Would you contract cute pets to cuddle with, fierce beasts to guard you, or perhaps even a group of companions for a harem adventure? Unfortunately, the gap between fiction and reality remains. Life in another world isn't easy for our protagonist, who gets bullied for having a seemingly useless skill called contract gem. This skill allows them to tame any creature, but only if the creature willingly swallows the gem to be controlled. In his previous life, the MC, Zhang Ping, was a rescue team member who died in an accident. After his death, he transmigrated to a fantasy world filled with mutated beasts and awakened. In this new life, he gained a power called contract gem. This ability consumes physical and mental energy to create a contract gem, which can be used to control a target once they voluntarily accept it. Although this should have been a powerful ability, it has a significant drawback. One day, Zhang creates a contract gem, prompting Jingyao, the girl next to him, to ask what he is doing. Zhang casually replies that it's nothing and jokingly offers her the gem as candy. Blushing, she tells him to get lost, asking who would want to be controlled by him. Zhang lies down, pretending to be kidding, and recalls how the original owner of his body nearly died of frustration because this ability seemed so useless. Fortunately, Zhang's resilience from his previous life kept him going. Angered, Jingyao urges Zhang not to give up so easily, reminding him that the world is vast and there must be creatures willing to let him control them. Zhang responds that it's easy for her to say and questions who else, besides himself, would be willing to accept the gem. Before Jingyao can reply, Zhang has an epiphany. He gets up and eats the gem, shocking Jingyao. A green aura emanates from his body as he swallows the gem. When the aura fades, Jingyao, worried, asks if he is all right. Zhang reassures her that he is fine. Jingyao tells him not to do that again as it was very scary and prepares to leave, mentioning that she has to report to the patrol team the next morning and that he doesn't need to wait for her. Zhang asks if she is really graduating, to which Jingyao replies that she has mastered all the theoretical knowledge and that real combat will further improve her skills. Realizing that joining the patrol team to protect their homeland has always been Jingyao's dream, Zhang understands that she finally has a chance to achieve it. Jingyao tells Zhang not to be disheartened, encouraging him that once he becomes stronger, they might work together. Zhang awkwardly laughs it off, saying he will just go to the countryside and farm, while inwardly lamenting that it would probably be hard for them to see each other again. Despite Jingyao being the original owner's childhood friend, he feels reluctant to part with her like this and has an intense desire to hug her. Suddenly, his body moves on its own, pulling Jingyao into a hug, leaving Zhang confused and Jingyao blushing in shock. As they separate awkwardly, Jingyao tells Zhang that she is leaving now. Zhang wishes her well and tells her to take care, watching her wave goodbye. After Jingyao leaves, Zhang looks at his hands, realizing his body had hugged her on its own. He wonders if he subconsciously commanded himself to do it, considering if it was just a coincidence. Determined to understand the extent of his self-control, Zhang decides to run a series of tests, commanding himself to perform actions he normally couldn't do, such as martial arts moves and attempting to take flight. Exhausted and drenched in sweat, Zhang collapses to the ground, unable to continue the tests. He concludes that he can make his body perform almost any action within the limits of normal human capability, though not beyond, such as flying or transforming into another species. He discovers that he can imitate actions based on memory, meaning theoretically, he could master various martial arts effortlessly as long as his physical abilities meet the requirements. Improving his physical fitness could thus make him significantly stronger. However, he has one more question to verify. The next morning, he wakes up with sore legs and recalls that he had ordered himself to run before sleeping. He realizes that his body might have gone running while he was asleep. Realizing that his hypothesis from yesterday was correct, Zhang is thrilled to confirm that he can execute commands even when his brain is unconscious. Finding himself in the cafeteria, he looks around, hoping no one notices him. Suddenly, he hears people shouting and greeting Luo Xiyu, calling her a goddess and lusting over her. Recognizing her name, Zhang remembers that she is the school beauty and wonders if he usually gets up this early. As he turns to see what the commotion is about, his heart stops in fear. Behind him stands a large wolf-headed monster, staring directly at him. Zhang is confused and frightened, unable to understand why no one else seems to notice the terrifying creature. The monster, addressing Zhang, comments that he doesn't look well and calls him her classmate. The monster asks Zhang if he is sick, but even though he can see its true form, he tells himself to stay calm. Reassuring the creature, he says he is fine and simply had a rough night, causing him to not sleep well. Zhang gets up from his chair, telling the supposed Luo Xiyu that he still has class later and needs to leave. The monster notices his fear and wonders if it might have been mistaken. In the hallway, Zhang questions why there are mutated beasts in the school and why no one else has noticed them, wondering if his eyes have gone bad. Peeking through a classroom door, he decides to report this to a teacher. To his horror, instead of a teacher, he sees a monster feasting on a dead student. Zhang immediately leaves the area, panicked. Outside on a bench, Zhang screams in fear, remarking that something is terribly wrong and questioning if this is hell on earth. Picking up the contract gem, he realizes that he could only see the mutated beasts after he consumed it. Hoping to return to normal, he eats another gem. To his surprise, a green aura surrounds him, and he suddenly appraises a bloodstain on the floor. After a successful appraisal, he sees an afterimage of the mutated beast that killed the student. Still frightened, Zhang questions if he has awakened an appraisal spell. Appraising himself, he reveals his attribute panel, showing that he is a level 1 summoned beast with a 3-star growth rate. The information also details his skill and its level, revealing that his contract gem skill is at level 1 and its effect is already activated. His appraisal spell is at an elementary level, allowing him to see his own values and conduct appraisals on targets. The success rate of appraisals depends on the strength gap between both parties. Realizing that the new spell appeared unexpectedly, Zhang wonders if it could be related to him eating the gem again. Back in the classroom, he analyzes the current situation and notes that he has become both his own summoned beast and contractor. This unique status means he is only controlled by himself, immune to external interference, and unaffected by spells. As a result, he can see the true forms of the mutated beasts. After multiple failed attempts at appraising the mutated beasts, Zhang realizes that they are actually high-level heavenly foxes, whereas he is only at level 1, making him no match for them. These foxes use a cognitive distortion ability, a heaven-defying skill that makes them appear as ordinary students chatting, even when they are eating people in plain sight. This mental control ability explains why others don't notice anything amiss. Zhang recalls that Su Jingyao's ability is also mental in nature, leading him to believe she might be able to detect these creatures and survive. After school, Zhang is shocked to discover that the mutated beasts are present outside the school as well, making him question just how many there are. As Zhang arrives at the patrol team headquarters, he steps inside and is greeted by the receptionist, who asks what he needs. Zhang replies that he is looking for Su Jingyao, recalling that she likely checked in today. The receptionist asks Zhang to wait, but he notices that she is not actually human, but a mutated beast. In the waiting area, Zhang is shocked to see more natural order foxes within the patrol team, questioning if even high-level awakened individuals can't see through their illusions. When Su Jingyao arrives, she asks what he is doing there. Zhang, concerned, says he was worried she might not adapt well, so he came to check on her. Jingyao reassures him, introducing her teammates and explaining that everyone is taking good care of her. However, Zhang, with a frown, simply says that's great. Jingyao then declares her determination to work hard and become strong so she can fight mutated beasts in the future and avenge her parents. Jingyao then suggests that Zhang join the patrol team, mentioning they are still short on people. Zhang declines, explaining that his abilities are more suited for farming and would not be much help. Jingyao pouts as Zhang tells her that since she seems to be adapting well, he won't bother her anymore. As he walks away, his fake smile fades into anger and sorrow. He says his goodbyes to Jingyao, who is no longer alive. As Zhang walks out of the building, he questions what kind of joke this is, wondering how Pearl City, supposedly home to the strongest patrol team, could be completely annihilated. Anger and sorrow boil up within him as he struggles to believe that even Jingyao, who just joined today, could be killed so quickly. Looking through the streets, Zhang realizes that these natural order foxes have infiltrated not only the school but the entire city. He comes to the horrifying conclusion that everyone in Pearl City is merely livestock for these creatures. Zhang had been delving deep into his analysis abilities, uncovering that most celestial foxes ranged from mid to high-level threats. Even the city's guard, despite their numerous powerful awakeners, couldn't stand against these creatures. The one that killed Luo Xiyu was on an entirely different level, and Zhang's instincts warned him that if he attempted to analyze it, the beast would immediately pinpoint his location. He was convinced that this monster was at least apex level, possibly even king level, and suspected it was also responsible for empowering other celestial foxes to take on opponents far beyond their usual capabilities. Another discovery Zhang made was that, unlike most mutated beasts, celestial foxes were exceptionally intelligent. Not only were they masters of disguise, able to blend seamlessly into their surroundings, but this facade hid their true nature. Their primary targets were always the most powerful individuals or high-profile figures, while everyone else was simply livestock, kept around as future prey. Zhang knew that confronting them head-on would be suicidal, but he couldn't stand idly by while innocent lives were at stake. He needed to grow stronger. A week later, as Zhang woke up, he noticed he'd been rising earlier each day. He realized that pushing his body to its limits had resulted in needing less sleep. Zhang had been pushing himself hard over the past few days, leveling up once through intense training. Along with that, he had been trying to create and consume more gems, hoping to unlock a new power. However, ever since he awakened his analysis ability, all the gems he had created were colorless and had no effect when consumed. But today, Zhang finally crafted a colorful gem. Although it didn't seem particularly appetizing, he swallowed it, hoping it would work. As soon as the gem went down, a glow of light radiated from his body, causing Zhang to question what was happening. He quickly opened his status panel, where he could see his level, growth potential, and abilities. To his relief, the gem worked. He had unlocked a new ability, Nightwalker. This power granted him night vision, drastically reduced his presence in the dark, increased his movement speed, lowered his weight, and even made him completely invisible in shadows. Inspecting his abilities more closely, Zhang noticed that his contract gem ability had also leveled up, possibly tied to his overall growth. A smile crept across his face as he wondered if gaining new powers would consistently raise his level. If so, he thought, there would be no limit to how powerful he could become. Realizing this, Zhang jumped to his feet, thinking there was no time to waste. It was time for more training, and he could use this session to test his new Nightwalker ability. As he sprinted outside on the track, Zhang realized that his vision in the dark was even sharper than in daylight. As he continued running, something unusual caught his eye, a ring lying on the ground. He came to a halt and picked it up, puzzled as to why a ring would be there. Zhang attempted to analyze the ring, failing several times before finally succeeding on his fourth try. The results astonished him. It was an assassination ring, an item that caused all living beings to subconsciously ignore the wearer. Suddenly, the system announced that a playback was initiated, and Zhang found himself watching a scene unfold before his eyes. He saw a man wearing a mask standing with someone who appeared to be Luo Xiyu, though Zhang quickly realized this was an imposter. Studying the masked figure closely, Zhang suspected that this man might be the owner of the ring he had just found. The masked man was clearly interacting with the Luo Xiyu imposter as though she were human, which made Zhang wonder, was this man her enemy? As the playback continued, Zhang watched in shock as the masked man launched an attack on the imposter. He couldn't fathom why anyone would target Luo Xiyu, an orphan who had never made enemies. This left only one explanation: apart from himself, there were others in Pearl City secretly fighting these monsters. Zhang's thoughts were interrupted when a monstrous figure suddenly approached the scene, calling out to see who was there. Panic surged through Zhang, and he bolted from the area. Moments later, the monster reached the spot where Zhang had found the ring. Realizing the ring was gone, the creature deduced that someone must have been there. It scanned the surroundings but found no trace of the intruder's presence, puzzled by how that could be possible. The monster surmised that whoever had been there was at least a mid-level awakener. Meanwhile, Zhang, camouflaged and hidden behind a nearby wall, pieced together the truth: the ring had been left there on purpose. He realized that returning it now would raise even more suspicion, so he decided to keep it for the time being. At 5:36 a.m., Zhang sat in his house, remarking to himself that it was still dark outside. Reflecting on the earlier encounter, he understood that his Nightwalker ability combined with the ring had rendered him completely invisible to the monster. This revelation led him to a crucial realization: strength wasn't just about his abilities, it was also about the gear he could get his hands on. Suddenly, heavy footsteps of a monstrous figure approached Zhang's house, and a mysterious voice called out to him. Startled, Zhang demanded to know who it was. The voice urged him to hide, but Zhang continued to ask who was speaking. Moments later, the voice manifested into the spirit of Su Jingyao, who warned him, "They are coming." As celestial foxes infiltrated Zhang's home, they approached his bed where he appeared to be sleeping. One of the foxes, wearing a ferocious grin, eyed him suspiciously. "Is this the one?" it sneered, conjuring a ball of red energy in its hand. Raising the energy high above its head, the fox declared, "Die, Zhang." As the fox struck at the sleeping Zhang, it halted just above his head, not eliciting the slightest reaction from him. The fox thought that if Zhang had been the worthless coward who fled, he would have jumped up and fought for his life. It also failed to sense the stolen ring on him. One of the foxes asked their leader why they shouldn't just kill him, pointing out that Zhang usually jogs every morning but didn't today, which seemed suspicious. The fox leader replied that it wasn't Zhang, just a worthless piece of food, and it would be wasteful to kill him needlessly. After the foxes left, Zhang woke up drenched in sweat, realizing how close it had been. He spat out the ring he had hidden and remembered that he had completely forgotten his usual morning jog. He sighed in relief, knowing it was a smart move to order himself to sleep, avoiding any suspicion. However, he recalled hearing Su Jingyao's voice and wondered if it had just been his imagination. Staring at the ring, Zhang questioned why he was feeling sentimental. He reminded himself that he needed to become strong enough to avenge her, but for now, he would continue pretending to live normally to avoid alerting the celestial foxes. In the cafeteria, one of the girls asked her friend if she had heard about the city guard finding a body sliced in half near their academy earlier that day. The victim was none other than the infamous Black Death Star, the top assassin in Pearl City, and the one responsible for injuring the former city lord. Zhang, overhearing their conversation, wondered if the person in white was behind it. The girl continued, mentioning that the old city lord's injuries had never fully healed, leading to his early death. Zhang thought to himself that if Lu Xiyu had taken down such a dangerous assassin so effortlessly, her strength was far more terrifying than he had initially believed. However, he questioned why they were putting the body on public display this time. He concluded it must be a warning to anyone plotting against the celestial foxes. Realizing they would increase their vigilance, Zhang decided he needed equipment to protect himself and planned to visit the blacksmith shops after class. Upon arriving at the blacksmith district, Zhang analyzed the celestial fox's influence, quickly realizing that all the blacksmith shops in the city were under their control. After 3 failed attempts, he finally succeeded in analyzing the fox, and the system informed him that he had achieved 100 successful analyses, allowing his skill to level up from basic to intermediate. This upgrade enabled him to see the growth potential of others. A fox shopkeeper invited Zhang to browse the shop, but he declined, politely saying he was fine. As he walked away, Zhang noted to himself that he needed to find a blacksmith not under the celestial fox's control. As Zhang arrives at the Iron Soul blacksmith shop, he overhears a customer trying to sell a sword. The customer, a blonde man, boasts about the sword's top quality, urging the blacksmith to admire the craftsmanship and shine. Swinging the sword around, he smugly tells the old blacksmith it must be tough running the shop and offers to sell the sword at the lowest price, even if it pains him. The old man, puffing on a cigarette, cuts him off, criticizing the sword and sarcastically asking if the blonde guy had just said his daughter was waiting for him to eat. Irritated, the blonde man yells at the blacksmith, questioning if he was deaf. Suddenly, Zhang picks up the sword and begins to analyze it, which causes the blonde guy to demand who Zhang was and why he dared to touch his stuff. As he reaches for the sword, Zhang's analysis reveals that, despite its appearance, the sword is of common quality and practically useless, having been broken and poorly repaired. Zhang warns the man not to take it forcefully, as the sword would break, but before he can finish his sentence, the blonde guy grabs it, and the sword snaps in half. Furious, the blonde man curls up, lightning crackling around him, accusing Zhang of ruining everything. He demands if Zhang knows who he is. Shredding off his top, lightning sparking from his body, he announces himself as the direct disciple of Master Ma from Xingyi Martial Academy and assumes a fighting stance, ordering Zhang to prepare himself. The blonde guy launches a flurry of rapid strikes, but before he can land a hit, Zhang effortlessly slaps him to the ground, questioning if that was all he had. Humiliated, the man accuses Zhang of fighting dirty. Zhang analyzes him, revealing that the man is just a level 1 low awakener. Dismissing him, Zhang turns his back, prompting the blonde guy to yell at him to leave while he still can. Zhang, unimpressed, wonders aloud if the guy is serious. The blonde, seeing an opportunity, attempts a sneak attack, but Zhang swiftly pummels him into the ground once again. Standing over him, Zhang coldly asks, "Who's playing dirty now, when you're the one trying to pull a sneak attack?" As the blonde guy lays there bruised up, a person walks in remarking that she just stepped out for 5 minutes and the place became so lively, she questions if he will be getting out of here on his own or if she needs to show him the door. As the blonde guy runs out apologizing, Zhang thinks that he better go check other shops, but before he can depart the girl slams her hand on the door telling Zhang to stay as they need to talk, making him flabbergasted. Zhang asks the girl what she wants to talk about, and leaning in closer, she smiles and says she's just a damsel working hard every day to survive, while also taking care of her uncle, who's been distraught ever since his daughter went missing. Looking him over, she comments that his body is strong and his personality isn't bad, making Zhang blush as he starts to wonder if this is the moment he'll finally become a man. But instead, the girl wraps her arms around him, giving him a heavenly experience, and suggests he stay to work as a blacksmith. She adds that he should help take care of old man Liu Taifeng and manage the shop, reassuring him that food, accommodation, and even a salary would be provided. Still lost in the blissful sensation, Zhang thinks that if he learns forging skills, he could save a lot of money on equipment in the future. Plus, this shop doesn't seem to be under the control of the celestial foxes. Without hesitation, Zhang boldly declares that he'll become the king of blacksmiths, surprising the girl. She laughs and slaps him on the back, telling him he's a good kid and that she expected nothing less from someone she's had her eyes on. Zhang, now lying on the ground, realizes he has to survive under her hands first. A few days later in the blacksmith shop, the girl, Zhang, instructs Zhang to use a bit more strength in to do it. Sweat dripping down his face, Zhang asks, Sister Cho Cheong, are you sure it's okay for us to do this? Cheong reassures him, telling him not to worry, as no one would come in while they are doing it. She encourages him, saying it feels good and not to fret, it's their exclusive skill, the kneading forging technique, where he needs to fuse the materials together like kneading dough. Before leaving to fetch the mold from the warehouse, she reminds him to keep the fire burning and tells him the fuel is in the bucket nearby, cautioning him not to let the flames die out. As Zhang looks at the fuel Cheong mentioned, he realizes that the fire is about to die out. Acting quickly, he adds the fuel and tosses the ball of material into the stove to continue heating it. However, to his surprise, the stove overheats, and fire begins blasting out, leading to a sudden explosion. Covered in fiery smoke from the blast, Zhang wonders if he's dead, but then he feels his heart begin to absorb the fire. The intense pain makes him scream as his eyes start glowing. After absorbing all the fire, Zhang regains consciousness, breathing heavily. He looks around in confusion, wondering why the flames extinguished so suddenly. Then, he feels his heart pounding hard, his body growing hot. Anxiously, he pulls up his status panel and sees that his growth level has increased to 4 stars. Stunned, he questions why it rose again so suddenly. Reflecting on what just happened, Zhang begins to suspect that awakening new abilities boosts his growth potential, while leveling up existing ones, like his analysis skill, consumes it. If his theory is correct, as long as he continues to awaken new abilities, his growth potential might be limitless. However, he recalls that most people have a fixed limit to their growth potential. Could he be the only one able to awaken multiple abilities? Curious, Zhang inspects the new ability listed in his status panel, Fire Devourer, which allows him to absorb flames and convert them into fire elemental energy, storing it within his body. Zhang wonders if it was this ability that saved him by absorbing the fire from the explosion. Still unsure of the full extent of his power, he resolves to learn more about it and how far he can push his newfound abilities. Reflecting on the events, Zhang recalls that he had already reached level 3 earlier that morning and had consumed a level 3 gem. He wonders why the effects only activated in the evening. Could there be some kind of special condition or circumstance required? While lost in thought, Cheong enters the room, immediately questioning what had happened and how the shop ended up in such chaos. Rushing to Zhang like a concerned lover, she asks if he had thrown the scarlet serpent scale into the stove, reminding him that doing so would cause an explosion. She quickly blames herself for forgetting to warn him. Zhang, trying to apologize for the damage to the shop, is cut off by Cheong, who tells him not to worry, it's fine as long as he's safe. She then asks how he managed to extinguish the fire, noting that a blaze fueled by the scarlet serpent scale isn't easily put out. Flustered, Zhang replies that it's a long story. As Cheong sets down the mold and examines the materials, she questions how the fusion of the elements went so well, since achieving such results would require extremely high temperatures. She pours the molten materials into the mold, commenting on Zhang's talent. She adds that the school must be blind to overlook his skills, as with his current performance, he's more than qualified to join one of the 3 big organizations. Curious, Zhang asks Cheong about these organizations, mentioning that people usually refer to the city guard and the investigation team as 2 of the 3, but he doesn't know what the 3rd one is. As Cheong hammers the molten materials, shaping the weapon, she explains that Pearl City itself is a part of this mysterious 3rd organization. However, what it's called and what it actually does remain unknown to most people. Cheong suddenly remembers something and asks Zhang if he wasn't trying to buy equipment earlier. She then offers him the weapon she just finished crafting, saying he can take it if he doesn't mind. Zhang examines the dagger with his analysis skill and is impressed by its quality, asking Cheong if it isn't too expensive. She responds that based on the current market value of the materials, it would cost around 100,000. Shocked by the hefty price tag, Zhang wonders how someone like him, with a meager monthly salary of 3,000, could even consider keeping such a valuable item. Cheong waves off his concerns, telling him it's a reward for his improvement. As she starts to walk away, she mentions she has a mission to attend to and asks if Zhang will be okay not returning to school. Zhang reassures her that there's no need to worry, as he had already completed his graduation procedures in advance. Before leaving, Cheong reminds him to take care of old man Liu Taifeng, who's a bit unstable at the moment, and suggests that Zhang not let him open the shop for business. After Zhang leaves, Zhang contemplates his situation. Although the blacksmith shop hasn't been targeted by the celestial foxes, likely because it's been closed for a while, the commotion from earlier could still draw their attention. Since it's nighttime, Zhang decides to use his night walker skill to scout the area for potential threats. Outside, Zhang notices a girl playing on a swing. Using his analysis skill, he discovers she's actually a level 3 mutated beast, making this the first time he's encountered a celestial fox at such a low level. Gripping his new dagger, Zhang calculates that since her level matches his and is now boosted by his equipment, he should have the upper hand in a fight. Zhang recalls that the city guard had completely fallen under the control of the celestial foxes, but the investigation team operating outside the city should still be intact. He thinks that if he could kill this celestial fox and present its corpse to them, it might catch the attention of higher management and help him gain some leverage. Just as he prepares to make his move, Zhang is caught off guard by a sudden attack from behind. His right arm is frozen. A menacing voice behind him questions whether he's seriously planning to attack a child. The chilling aura emanating from the attacker makes Zhang freeze in place, and they warn him not to move unless he wants to die. Zhang remains frozen in place as the mysterious woman warns him not to even think about attacking. Her power far exceeds his own, and Zhang quickly realizes that both his Night Walker skill and the Assassination Ring are completely ineffective. She sees right through them. The woman, without any hint of hesitation, tells him to meet her at the orphanage training ground if he doesn't want to die. Zhang, baffled, wonders why the orphanage of all places, but before he can ask, she vanishes into the night. Left standing there, Zhang realizes she isn't aligned with the celestial foxes, or else he would likely already be dead. In front of the orphanage gates, memories flood back to Zhang. He had grown up here, spending his childhood practicing makeshift fighting moves in the little park just across the street. He had dubbed it the orphanage training grounds. Zhang starts to suspect that the woman might know him personally, otherwise, how could she be so familiar with his secret place and his past? It becomes clear that she's been watching him for some time, stopping him earlier before he made a rash move. Her choice to lead him here must have a deeper reason. As Zhang enters the orphanage grounds, his thoughts are interrupted by a sudden rustling in the woods. A mutated beast appears before him, making him question why these creatures have wandered into the forest near the orphanage. Using his analysis skill, Zhang identifies the beast as a mutated rodent with a potential growth rate of 2 stars, but more importantly, it's a level 5 mutated beast, 2 levels higher than his own. Zhang grows cautious, calculating his odds. It's clearly dangerous, and retreating might be the safest option. However, the thought of the children from the orphanage wandering into the park tomorrow gnaws at him. If he doesn't deal with the creature now, the kids might be in serious danger. Coming to his senses, Zhang steadies his nerves. He can't turn back. Zhang knows this is just a low-level mutated beast, and with the weapon he received from Zhang, victory is within reach. Steeling himself, Zhang leaps toward the creature, dagger in hand. He recalls all the web novels he read in his past life where protagonists became instant combat experts the moment they gained powers, but he knows that's pure nonsense. Lacking real fighting experience, Zhang considers ordering Zhang Ping summon beast to fight, but before he can get closer, the beast launches itself into the air, spinning wildly toward him in a surprise attack. Caught off guard, Zhang blocks the rolling assault with his dagger but struggles to keep up as the creature relentlessly spins. Realizing its thick armor is too tough for his blade to penetrate, he decides to outsmart it. With a calculated strike, Zhang knocks the beast aside, sending it crashing onto a nearby rock. Recovering quickly, the beast readies itself for another attack, raising its tail and conjuring green blobs at its tip. It fires multiple projectiles at Zhang, who deftly commands his own summoned beast, himself, to dodge left, right, up, and down, as though controlling a character in a game. Studying the creature more carefully, Zhang notices that its eyes are the only vulnerable spot not covered by armor. He realizes this must be the weak point, though hitting it won't be easy, especially when the beast curls into a ball for defense. As Zhang lands back on his feet, he quickly strategizes a way to break the beast's posture. he recalls that he possesses the Fire Devourer skill, which can unleash stored energy until it's fully depleted. Commanding himself to adopt the Pearl Fist Rat Buster stance, Zhang reflects on how he never imagined those dull history lessons about Pearl Fist would prove useful. He notes that this technique is designed to overwhelm opponents with sheer brute force, making it perfect for crushing smaller foes. As the beast continues its tail attacks, Zhang skillfully dodges each one, steadily closing the distance. He prepares a feint with his dagger, striking swiftly while secretly charging his Fire Devourer skill in his left hand. As the beast attempts to defend itself by curling up, Zhang unleashes his skill, causing the creature to squeal in pain. Seizing the moment, Zhang channels the energy of his skill into his dagger, and with a decisive strike, he targets the beast's weak spot. The result is a massive explosion of fire that engulfs the creature. With the beast defeated, Zhang levels up to 4, along with all his other stats. He realizes that real combat accelerates growth far more effectively than mere training ever could. As Zhang considers the unusual appearance of the venom-tailed beast within the city walls, he speculates that it must have been deliberately placed there. Normally, the only mutated beasts inside the city are the celestial foxes. His thoughts are interrupted when a mysterious black mist approaches and quickly surrounds him. Before he can react, Zhang finds himself engulfed, struggling to understand what's happening as he becomes trapped. Suddenly, he falls through the mist and lands in a dark void. As he tries to grasp his surroundings, a familiar voice gives him a startling ultimatum: he has 5 minutes. Recognizing the voice as the woman he encountered earlier, Zhang is taken aback as she encases him in ice and conjures a blade made of ice, challenging him to prove his humanity. Confined and immobilized by the ice surrounding him, Zhang ponders the strange question. As a human, he wonders how he's supposed to demonstrate his humanity under such bizarre and surreal circumstances.